fitness testing, and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go. Oh my God, you guys. Today I have a fucking rock star guest. I am so pumped about this episode, you guys. I am joined by Sally Lloyd. Sally is a police officer with South Wales Police in Wales in the United Kingdom. She's been in policing for 20 years. She did 16 and a half years on response and 3.5 years in youth justice. Her current role is a youth offending officer, seconded to the Youth Justice Service. And Sally and I know each other because we went to university 25 years ago in Wales together, and we played rugby. We were into all sorts of shenanigans for the year that I was there. We stayed in contact, and I absolutely fucking love this human being, you guys. I'm so excited she joined me today. How are you, my queen?
You got me a bit emotional with all that, Nick, to be honest. I'm like that. Oh my God. I can't believe it's been 25 years since, oh my gosh, since uni. That is mad.
Right? It doesn't, I literally, we were talking before we started recording that like our kids are going to be in university in like 5 years.
But yours is, like, mine are a bit younger. Yeah. Oh
my God, like how did we get old?
I know. I know. I've got the grey hairs to show it as well. I tell you, honestly, it's
me too. Me too. I do my best to like pull it back and be like, you can't really see it, and then I'm like, no, you can fucking totally see it.
I just dye it. It's as easy to dye it. But no, I'm good. Thanks. All the better for seeing you. Gosh.
Yes, awesome. we had an amazing year when I was in Swansea. To this day, I tell everybody, if you can travel, go. If you are a young listener, go do it. Travel. It's unbelievable. Wales is a beautiful country. If you want to go somewhere, Wales is beautiful. The people are absolutely phenomenal. They're the kindest, nicest people. Like, it was a time. And I mean,
we got Canadians though, Nick. You Canadians are lovely as well, because I know a few Canadians you are super lush.
I love that.
As we say in Wales, lush.
I know. I was going to say, I can't wait for all the little Welshisms to come out in this conversation, because I miss them so much. Do we still, ta-ra? Do you still say that?
Tra, and come for a cwtch, or give me a cwtch, which is a big hug, isn't it? A cwtch.
I love it. Even hearing your voice, I'm just like, oh, there's my girl. There's my Welsh people.
I'm not even that Welshy. I'm quite posh Welsh. So I'm not even that Welshy. So, but still, there we are.
Okay, well, I want to jump into this because I don't think, and I was actually thinking about this last night, I don't think we ever talked about when we were in university, like what we were going to do afterwards, because like we weren't in the same classes. So I think you were a year above me. And then so we wouldn't have been in the same classes, and we just played rugby and like partied, and we didn't really talk about life plans. I got drunk a lot. Yes. And didn't really talk about life plans.
You don't tend to when you're 20. You kind of like think you're invincible when you're 19, 20, don't you? You don't really think about what you're going to do for the future. So yeah.
So was this something that you wanted to do as you were kind of going through university? Were you planning on it, or was it just like you finished uni and you were like, hey, what am I going to do now?
Well, I was a bit defiant, I think, because I did a geography degree. So everyone used to come up to me and say, oh, what are you going to do after a geography degree? You're going to be a teacher. You're going to go into teaching. And that was never on my radar, basically, because at that time in my life, I didn't really like children. So I was like, no, I'm not going into teaching. It's my current role now as youth offending officer, But yeah, I didn't that was never at my forefront to go into teaching. So my big strong head on, a bit defiant. No, I'm definitely not going to go to teaching. But I did stay. I don't know if you remember, I stayed my fourth year. It was my fourth year I saw you, because I did a conversion course in computer science, which I failed miserably, basically because I played rugby and got drunk. So,
excellent.
As you do. So I was going out with, I don't know if you remember, my boyfriend at the time, John. Remember John?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So I was going out with him, and then policing was never, ever on the radar. And then I went to work for 4 years. I worked in Thomas Financial, And with about 2 years in, I was like, oh, an office job is not for me. It wasn't to be sat in an office all day, when you're quite active, playing rugby, going to the gym, etc. It's like, I'm not an office bunny. So I looked to join the police, and he wouldn't let me. He was like, no, you're not joining the police, because if you join the police, I'll never see you. That's it. And that'd be a relationship over with. So anyway, I decided to end it after 4 years with John and join the police. So I thought, bugger you, you're not telling me what to do. So yeah, and the rest is history, as they say. Yeah. So I put the application form in and joined. Yeah.
That's unreal. I mean, I totally get you on the office job, because I did corrections for 17 years. Busy, up, down, dealing with, loved it, left corrections, and then was like, okay, well, I'm starting Blue Line. I'm going to do this business, but I need a job along the way, and got into like an admin office job. And it was awful. Like you said, to sit in an office all day long. And I mean, like, I was actually pretty lucky, because within the first 3 months of starting at this place, COVID hit. So then I worked from home for 2 years. So that was glorious, because I'm working from home, but you're glued to a computer all day long. You're sitting most of the day. And then when we went back into the office, and I was like, this is the reality of working in an office no, this is not for me. Within the 6 months, I was like, see you later, guys. I'm quitting. I'm doing Blue Line full time. I cannot do this. So
it's funny, because I think somewhere in my back of my brain, I always want to be a police officer, because my friend's mum then came up to me after I joined and said, oh, I remember when you were a little Sal saying that you were going to join the police. I don't remember it myself, but she remembers it. So I think in the back of my mind, I thought I'd always probably knew I was going to be a police officer, or go into some emergency services, whether that be fire or paramedic, but something along those lines. But yeah, it was obviously the police that had the call in, and that's where I ended up. And to be fair, it's the best thing that I ever did. It's great. It's fab. I don't know what it's like in Canada, but over in South Wales, I mean, it was a job, and it still is a good job. And it's a job I would say to people to join if they wanted to, definitely. Yeah, it's good.
So what was the recruiting process like when you applied? I know it's 20 years ago, so it's probably changed, but was it like for you?
Yeah, it's changed loads since I joined. Yeah, so 20 years ago, you had to do application form. So you get paper sifted. If you pass that process, then you go for an interview. So the interview process is I think it was 5 different questions, 5 different scenario based in a hotel just outside Cardiff. And then you go for a fitness test. So the fitness test when I joined was a push and pull. You had to do a push and pull and I can't remember what you had to do, to be honest. You had to do the grip test. And then you had to do a bleep test, which is 5.4, which, to be fair, isn't that hard, is it? 5.4,
You only had to get a 5.4.
Only 5.4. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. I know. Because I watch you, and because you do the Blue Line Fitness, don't you? Mm-hmm. And like your fitness test in Canada, I imagine that's to get into the police, is it? Or to get into the prison service? Yeah. I was like that. My gosh, you have to do loads.
Yeah. But what you went through sounds what they have to do for Edmonton Police. So Edmonton Police is they call it the A prep, and it's beep test, but you have to get a level 7. It's an obstacle course, but it's like a short obstacle course. You have to jump over a 5-foot wall, go over some stairs, run around some cones. You do that, 4 laps of that, and then you go to the push-pull machine, and then you go to the grip machine, then you go to the push-pull machine, then you go to the grip machine, and then you have to drag a dummy, and you have to do all that in 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and then you get a break, and then you run the beep test and have to get a level 7. So it sounds similar, like the same kind of obstacles that you had to do with the push-pull and the grip test and the beep test. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think prior to me, it was harder before as well. They had to do an obstacle course or something similar to that. That was taken out when I joined. It was literally just a push-pull and the bleep, really. And then after that, you have a medical test as well then. And then once you've passed all that, you go into your 2 years probation period. So you go for training. So I went to Cwmbran. They've stopped Cwmbran now. It's a residential training facility. It was up in Newport Way. I think we went there for, I think it was a month or 2 months we had to go there. And then you go out into your tutorship period then. So you go out with a tutor then for, I think that was about 6 months as well. And then you go out on shift, but your probation period then lasts for 2 years. And once you pass that, you're a fully fledged police officer then. So you're out on the streets, which I was for 16 and a half years before I went into my current role. Yeah.
So are you like, do you have limited duties that you're allowed to do when you're under your tutor? Or is it like you're still just like you
No,
can do everything, but you just have like that mentor with you that's kind of watching what you're doing?
yeah, you can do everything. I mean, you had certain targets you had to hit, like you had to do, I think I had to do 2 stop searches, had to do 2 sudden deaths, had to go to 2 domestics, etc. Firearms wise, you didn't have any taser, didn't have a firearms. I mean, South Wales Police is just, it's getting better with taser now. There's more taser officers and firearms officers. But when I started, taser was never a thing. You just had the old CS spray. Now, even that's changed now. That's Parva spray now. But yeah, we just had CS spray. But yeah, no, you're out and about doing everything. You had to do so many traffic stops, give out so many what we call HRT ones, which are producers to produce your documents for your car. Even that's all gone now because that's all computerized, so we don't do them anymore. But yeah, you had targets you had to hit, and you had to complete what was called a PDR in my day, and it was all handwritten. I mean, everything's computerized now. I mean, it's, you know, when I started, we didn't even have email in South Wales Police. I mean, but we've got it now. But yeah, so yeah, you just go out and about with your tutor, doing everything really, going to calls, and it was on response, so it was frontline police, and yeah, just dealing with everything and whatever came at you on that day.
That's awesome. And so did you like your training when you were going through training? Was it like, okay, like I can't wait to do this? Or were you just kind of like, whoa, what have I got myself into?
Yeah, no, it was totally that. Whoa, what have I got myself into? Because it was like completely different to the world I've been brought up in as well. You know, you're going into people's houses and thinking, oh my gosh, how do people live like this? But people do, you know, and to them, that's the norm. And it's a big, massive adaptation and massive change. And I remember, I think it wasn't until about 3 years in when it all of a sudden clicked. And I was like, I actually know what I'm doing now. But you only know, I think, in the police, you only know, you can sit down and do exams and learn the law left, right, centre. But the only way to really learn is to go out and about and do it and go on the streets and get that experience on response on the streets, going from call to call, because that's your bread and butter. That's what you do day in, day out. So yeah, the first 2 years were hard. And I was a bit like, oh shit, what have I done? Have I done the right thing? You know, but a big part of it is your team, because you're on response. And I had such a good team and a really, really good sergeant. All my sergeants have been excellent. I've been so lucky. And all the people I worked with have been so supportive. And in those first 3 years, I had a really, really good shift. I've got to say that because I met my husband as well, didn't I? So I've got to say that. If he ever listens to this, he'd be like, oh, yeah, it's because you met me. I said, part of it is because I met him. But part of it as well is the team and that the teamwork and that you just gel with them and they just made it. And then I thought, right, after 3 years, this job is for me, it's fab. And I always said, oh, you know what, I'll do 5 years on response, because I think every response officer needs to do 5 years. Learn the basics, do the job day in, day out, and then perhaps look for a department. Where 16 and a half years later, that's when I moved into a department because I loved response so much. I just loved it. And every day is different, you know, and the people you meet and the people you deal with, you know, you deal with the right rogues of society, you know, the ones that have obviously murdered people, have been in prison or whatever. But then you deal with some really, really good people as well, and seeing the difference you make in people's lives. When you've gone to that domestic, you've arrested that person, be it the female or the male, and you made a difference to the victim's life. You know, you've taken them to court, you've gone to court with them, they've got that restraining order, you've changed their lives for the better. And that outweighs, that's brilliant, you know, when you get a result like that, you know, so.
I love that. So you mentioned a couple of things. So I'm going to just touch on them. So for our listeners that don't know, our police counterparts in the UK usually do not carry firearms. So
No.
that's an abnormality, because in Canada, every police officer, some of our sheriffs, things like that, they all carry sidearms. So what exactly is on your duty belt if you're on response? You've got OC, you said, or like the pepper spray.
Yeah, so you got CS. So it's now, we've just moved over to Parva in the last couple of years. So we got Parva spray, we got an ASP, so your baton, an ASP, but ours racks out. So I don't know if you've got a solid. Ours is a rack and ASP. Handcuffs, I always carry 2 sets. I've got one on my vest and then one tucked in my vest. We got a spit hood, spit hood. And then we've got limit straights as well, a torch, and that's it, I think. Yeah, that's it. And then we've got body cam and then our radio. Yeah. But if you want, I was taser trained. I was taser trained just before I had George. So in between having my 2 children, it's just when they introduced taser and they were they were training up tasers, so officers. So I put my name forward. So yeah, I was taser for probably about a year. Luckily, never had to use it. You never had to red dot anyone. I think I probably unholstered it once, when I went to someone self-harming with a knife, but luckily never had to use it. But South Wales Police, more and more officers are now becoming taser trained, especially frontline officers. So it's good bit of kit. Good bit of kit. It works well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for firearms, as when you're talking Glocks and that, no, that's a specialist department that you have to go on if you want a proper firearm.
So then how, obviously you don't always need a firearm. It's just another tool on our belt, right? You're now knowing that you don't have a sidearm, your communication skills, all that stuff is like, you need to be on because you don't have anything on your belt really besides OC and a baton, right?
Yeah.
So how do they get called out? Or are they only called out if it's like, that the other person has a gun or something like that? Like how does that team come out?
Yeah, so when somebody phones up originally, it goes to the control room, and control room will put a thrive on, which is threat, risk, harm. So they'll risk assess it down in the headquarters down in Bridgend in South Wales. They'll risk assess the call, and if there's a mention of a weapon or a knife, that will probably be a taser trained officer response. If the level of threat is heightened and that they say a gun or I don't know, a zombie knife, or depending on what's happening, they'll risk assess it and so they could call a full firearms authority. So then firearms will go. It could be initially, taser will go, assess the situation. Then they'll say, no, we need bigger guns here. We need the firearms here. Can firearms attend? So they will attend then. We've also got a territorial support team, and they are all taser trained. So they're a group of officers that are in a van together, female, male, mixed up. And if there's a large public order, they'll tend to go to that. Or if they are a heightened call, they'll probably go to support as well. So yeah, it's all to do with the level of threat. And then we've got a FIM, which is an inspector down in headquarters. He will judge the level of threat, and given on what he says, he'll make the call whether firearms go, or whether it's just taser response, or whether it's just response will go and assess it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then the second thing was, so you were talking about your team. So what does that look like? Like, do you call it a team? Do you call it a squad, a platoon, a troop? And how big is it? And then what are your shifts like?
So on response, we call it a team. Yeah, response team. So when I joined, we were 4. We were A relief, B relief, C relief, and D relief. But they changed that then within about 3 years of me being in to 5 teams. So firstly, when I joined, the shift was 4 on, 4 off, 2 days, 2 nights. Awesome, brilliant, really, really good. And then they changed it to when we went to the 5 shift pattern, we work 2 mornings. So that's 7 till 4, 7 till 4, 2 afternoons, 3 till midnight. And then 2 night shifts, which were 10 in the night till 7 in the morning. However, this is where it gets confusing. On the weekend, day shifts finish at 5 because afternoon shifts start at 4. So you do a 4 till 3. It's called a supernoon. Yeah. Okay. And then every 10 weeks, because of the shift pattern, officers owe the force 10 hours. So they have a training day then on a Thursday. So every 10 weeks, you work a 7-day pattern. You'll work a Thursday to the following Thursday. Yeah.
And are you working 8-hour shifts, 12 or so on this new pattern, you're working like the 8, 9s.
Yeah. So my new pattern now or on response?
On response, sorry.
On response, they're 9, 10, and 11-hour shifts.
Okay. Yeah. And then when you were working 2 on, 2 off, were they 12s?
They were 12-hour. Yeah, 12-hour shifts. Yeah. That was a good shift pattern. But it was all to do with victim focus, and apparently South Wales Police victim response times or response wasn't very good. So they changed it then to 6 on, 4 off. So yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. And then how many, you said 4 people on a shift?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Blue Line Fitness Testing is a premier law enforcement fitness testing and training center based in Edmonton. Specializing in helping individuals prepare for the physical demands of a career in law enforcement, we offer comprehensive fitness evaluations, specialized training programs, and classes tailored to meet the unique needs of our clients. Our facility hosts a range of classes and are committed to fostering a supportive and empowering environment where clients can achieve their fitness goals. Our team includes experienced trainers who bring specialized expertise in law enforcement, self-defense, personal training, and rehabilitation. We engage through our community through challenges, events, and our podcast, and we are dedicated to helping individuals succeed in their fitness journeys and career aspirations in law enforcement. Are you looking to get started with your career? Come see Blue Line Fitness Testing, and we'll get you there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's the question. Sorry, you asked that. How many people on shift? Right. So when I started, there was a sergeant and about 6 in Pontypridd, where I was based, and then a sergeant and 6 in Talbot Green. So we kind of like overlapped and helped each other out, depending on how busy we were. However, that's changed. I mean, frontline policing in South Wales has been, it's been decimated. Everyone's gone into departments. So at the moment, I think South Wales or in Pontypridd, about 1 and 4, 1 and 6, and in Talbot, the other day they were parading with 1 and 2. But I think it should be 1 and 4. So
wow,
yeah.
So you guys, even well, I guess across the world is seeing the shortage in frontline people in officers joining. Yeah, it's every. I think it's every first responder career is hurting for people. The people are just not going into these careers, especially into law enforcement. So that's interesting to hear that it's happening over there too. Yeah. And then you did 16 and a half years on patrol. Absolutely loved it. What was the lead up into, what I think I'm going to come off and I'm going to go into a department, and then why the youth offending?
Age, I think. Age, love. I'm getting old. Night shifts were killing me.
It's true.
I absolutely love response, and it's the best job, I think, in the police. And I think it's the hardest job in the police force as well, because every day's different and you don't know what you're going to. However, it has got a shelf life, definitely got a shelf life. And having 2 small kids, I've got a daughter now who's 11 and a George and a son who's 8. And it was little things like, I remember I had to take a victim back up to London. I came back and I missed my son's birthday morning. And I was like, I'm missing out so much on my kid's life. And I just need to be there for them. So luckily, this job came up in youth offending. I went for it and I got it. So now I work 8 till 4, Monday to Friday. And it's fab. I'm there for the kids. I can take them to school. I can pick them up from school. I'm there for after school activities, especially the weekends. I can watch George play football, rugby. My daughter play rugby as well. And I help coach out her rugby team on a Thursday night. So I don't have to say, I can't do that because I'm working or I've been cancelled or whatever. It's work-life balance. And that was a big push factor for me to go off response into this job. Although I still do think response is the best job in the world. And I do go back and do some overtime just to keep my hand in and just keep fresh, because policies and procedures update, don't they, all the time? So it is good to do a bit of overtime just to go back. So,
yeah, it's true. Yeah. I think when I think back to like my kind of last couple of years of corrections, working nights, I was driving an hour and a half one way to go to work, an hour and a half one way. And I think it sadly think back and I'm like, I don't really remember my youngest growing up. I don't really remember the, 0 to 4 years of age. I really don't. And now she's turning 9. I remember the last 5 years, 5 years, because I was home. I wasn't working shifts. I wasn't a zombie waking up in the middle of the day and being like, I just got off nights. I have no idea what day or time it is. And my kids want me to play with them and I'm exhausted and I can't do it. So I totally believe in that too.
Yeah. It's a massive sacrifice, isn't it? When you're a frontline worker, whether it be a paramedic, fire, prison officer. It's a massive sacrifice when you have to work shift patterns, and your family suffers and your family life suffers. It does. And so that was a massive push for me coming off response, and I was very lucky I landed this role in youth offending service, definitely, because it means I can work 8 to 4 Monday to Friday, weekends off, and be there for my children,
Yeah. And you mentioned before too, which I didn't realize, that your husband is also a police officer?
Yes, he is. So we met when I first joined. Yeah. So we were both on A relief together. So he stayed in Pontypridd and I went off to Talbot Green. But yeah, we stayed on the same shift pattern. And that's another thing when you have children. So when we had my daughter, we had to go on completely different shifts. So we were like passing ships in the night. I'll be coming in off the night shift. He's going to work. I've got to stay up, take my daughter to school, come home, then sleep. So yeah, so he was on response for, I think he did about 15 years. And then he's in missing people now. He deals with criminal exploitation and missing people. Yeah. So.
Wow. Yeah. And I, like you said, that's the other kind of, I guess, like piece of the puzzle is when your spouse is also a first responder, a shift worker. Yeah. Juggling like who's staying home, who's picking up, who's going. Yeah. Oh, you're coming off nights. Oh, I'm going on nights. When are we eating? When are we seeing each other? So yeah. Totally. I can totally see that. And so this new role that you're doing, well, I guess not so new anymore, 3.5 years, but
3.5. I know.
What exactly does this entail? Well, I know we kind of had mentioned you're dealing with youth 10 to 17 years old, but what exactly are you kind of doing with the youth?
Yeah. So I deal with, I don't know what the age of criminal responsibility is in Canada, but in England and Wales, it's 10. So I deal with the 10 to 17 year olds because anyone above 17, 18 in the eyes of the law is an adult. So yeah, so I deal with them. So any young child that's been arrested, I do a check in the morning to see whether I've got any young children in custody or have been in custody. If they have been in custody and they've been interviewed and they've admitted the offence, they're eligible for what we call an out-of-court disposal. So instead of going to court before the magistrate or the judge, they come for an out-of-court disposal, which is a multi-agency panel made up of children's services, police, health, antisocial behaviour, early help team. There's a load of us that meet up and we decide the outcome, what this kid should have. Mm-hmm. So instead of giving them a criminal conviction as such, they have a low-level out-of-court disposal where they're with Youth Justice Service for 3 months. They work with us where there's interventions put in place to help stop them reoffend and help stop them going through the criminal justice service. So the interventions can be anything like drug intervention, emotional regulation intervention, peer pressure, depending on what offence it is. If there's an offence involving a knife or a weapon, it could be knife crime intervention, weapon intervention. We've also just started doing driving change. So we do driving intervention for any child involved in driving offences. Mm-hmm. So it's basically just trying to keep them out of the criminal justice system and trying to keep them without a criminal conviction. I mean, it works for the majority of children. It doesn't work for everyone because we've got an offending ladder. So we start low level and you go up and up and up. And some kids, unfortunately, do end up in the criminal justice system. They do end up in court. But yeah, so my job is to work with the youth offending service to try and stop these children by putting interventions in place going through to the courts. Yeah.
So is it just you? Like, are you the sole officer that's doing this or is there a team of you guys?
Yeah, so not for South Wales. So South Wales Police is made up into regions. So we've got Midlam, we've got Central, and we've got Swansea. There's 3 regions. So in Midlam, so I'm part of Midlam, there's 3 youth offending officers. There's me, Nigel Bird, and Ian Watts. So I cover, I know your listeners probably don't know these areas, but I cover Porthcawl, Maesteg, Bridgend, and Pencode. So quite a large area. Yeah, it's just me for a large area. But I'm part of, so I'm the police officer and part of a bigger team, because a bigger team then is social services, so social workers, intervention officers. We've got a drug worker with us. We've got a probation officer in the team. We've got a nurse in the team. So I'm the only police officer for Bridgend, Maesteg, Police, Porthcawl and Aberkenfig, Pencode. So yeah, quite a large area I cover. But yeah, it's not just me going out doing all the interventions with these people.
That's really, really cool. And so do you have, like, where would the jail be? Like, if these kids are moving, like, do you have a youth center that they would go to?
Yeah. So Park Prison in Bridgend is a young offenders institution. Yeah. So we do. And and if that's full, there are obviously other prisons around the country that will take young offenders. Yeah.
But you're finding that this, like, low level out of court resolution, that these are working, that these kids for the most part aren't then moving through. Are you seeing them reoffend? Are you seeing the same kids come through? Or
yes, we do. I mean, drugs is a massive problem at the moment, and these kids are being exploited by adults to go and sell the drugs. So that's quite a big problem we've got ongoing at the moment. But yeah, we do see them reoffend, unfortunately, but the majority of them due to being exploited by these older peers, So, but then on the flip side of that, we do see it works for some people as well. We don't see the reoffend, We get them into education. Education's a big thing. We get them into education. We get them into employment, So they've got something to focus on. So,
are you getting kids as young as 10? Like, are you seeing that?
We do. Not so much being criminalized. We get a lot of 9-10-year-olds on, so we deal with prevention as well, trying to catch them at that early stage. So anyone that comes to the police's attention on antisocial behaviour, we can put forward to a prevention panel. So we can then link in with other agencies such as early help, education, and children's services to see what interventions we can all put in place to stop these youngsters from coming into the criminal justice system, not service. So yeah, we do deal with 9-10-year-olds, but I would say that's more low level as in intervention. However, we have got 10-11-year-olds that have offended, have committed criminal damage, have committed assaults, So we do see them coming through our doors, but not, I wouldn't say as much as, say, your 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. Yeah.
And
we try
you're just trying to stop it before they get
we're trying to stop
age.
it before they get there, trying to pick them up and work with them before they get into any more serious trouble.
And are you finding the drug problems in Wales, is it opioids, or is it like in Canada right now, it is opioid overdose central? Like that is most of what we're dealing with is opioid usage, overdosing, selling. So what is it in Wales?
Cocaine's starting to rise again. Cocaine, cannabis, we've got massive, especially in the youngsters. I would say cannabis. Yeah, cannabis is a big problem. I would talk about opiates, not so much with the young people I see. Cannabis, it's more cannabis. Class A would be cocaine, or MDMA. But I would say the big problem is cannabis, smoking.
And you guys don't have meth, no like methamphetamines, anything like that?
We do, but I would say that's more the older clientele rather than youngsters. Yeah.
That's it's funny when you say cannabis because it's legal in Canada, right? So for like you can go to the weed store and you can buy people are still, I'm sure people are still selling it, and it's not it's not the legal stuff that they're selling, but cannabis is there's not that issue here anymore. It's just now it's legal.
Do you have to go to a store to buy it, or can anyone grow it and buy it?
So you can get a license from the government to have 4 plants and grow it yourself. But you're not allowed to sell it, or it's for your personal consumption, which everybody fucking shares it with their friends and gives it out. Let's be serious. But it's supposed to be for your personal consumption. But then there's just stores. There's I don't know, because I don't know in Wales, I can't remember because we didn't ever buy liquor. We just went to the bar. But a liquor store, like a cold beer and wine store, right?
Yeah.
We have in Alberta, at least, we have them on every corner. You can go any corner, there's going to be a liquor store. Well, now any corner there's a liquor store, and then there's either a vape store or a weed store right next to it. So you just go in and buy what you need and off you go. Yeah.
Gosh, no, it's illegal over here. Vapes, we got a massive problem with vaping and kids vaping. They've taken off like rockets over here, vapes. But cannabis is still Class B. It's illegal. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So as a mum, how do you find working with the youth? Do you find, obviously I think it probably helps because you have that mum vibe and you can kind of use that mum tone. That's what I did in corrections. I use the mum tone all the time.
Yeah.
But do you find it's more challenging now that you have your own kids, seeing what these kids get into and where they're coming from and stuff like that?
Definitely. When I first joined the police, I didn't have kids, and I was quite hard, quite tough. And I think having kids does soften you big style. We do a trauma-informed approach and child-first approach in my youth justice. And we do a mapping, so we do a timeline exercise where we map a child's upbringing from pre-birth to present day. So we just kind of map basically all the trauma they've been through, all their ACEs, adverse childhood experiences they've been through. And it does highlight what some of these kids have been brought up with and what they've gone through. We're talking sexual abuse, physical abuse, domestic abuse. And it does, when I see it laid down in front of me, it does bring a tear to my eye to some kids. I had a kid in Bureau the other week, and I read, because the case manager do a report and they say what she's been through. And I was angry. I was so angry. I went through all the emotions reading the report. I was angry. I was upset. I was like, how is this child being brought up like this? This is breaking my heart. So I think before kids, I would have been like, oh God, this is awful. This is horrendous. But actually after having kids and having that mother instinct, I got really upset. So yeah, it is tough. It's tough dealing with children when you've got children yourself. And that's why I deal with the youth offending service. I'd never gone into CID or child abuse because I don't think I'm mentally strong enough to do that, especially with my children being so young.
Yeah. It's true, because I felt the same way, before I had kids in corrections. You would hear about like an offense against a child, you dealing with an inmate who has sexually abused a child or physically abused or whatever. And you'd be like, or killed their own baby, like lots of different things. And you would go, that's awful. Like, you're an awful person. Right. But on that like detached way of like feeling. And then after I had kids, it was like a visceral, like heart wrenching, like, how could you do that? Because you go home and you like, we had one, they basically killed their, I think it was 18-month-old baby. And I went home and my baby was 18 months. And you look at them and now you have this like real life example of how small they are and what they can do and what they can't do. And you think to yourself, how could you do that to this little innocent thing? Like, you are fucked up if you can do that to children. Like, for me, again, like I was like, oh yeah, like that's awful. And then you have kids and it's like,
definitely changes your perspective, doesn't it, when you have kids, especially when you're a police, or paramedic or any frontline, it definitely just changes your perspective,
Yeah, that's crazy. I really like that you guys are doing all these like intervention stuff, though, that it's not just like, okay, these kids are bad, let's throw them in jail. Like, it's really awesome to hear. And it's, that this is work that's being done to like, not just be reactive to crime, but to be like proactive, to actually try and get out, catch these kids, put in place the supports and stuff like that. Do you find that you have the funding and the support from like the community, the government and things like that for these programs? Or are you fighting an uphill battle to kind of get these programs and keep them at the level you want them to be at?
It's because the funding for Youth Justice Service comes from the Home Office. It's a statutory organisation. So it's always going to be there. So there's always going to be funding there, always. And we have to have a nurse, we have to have a police officer. So funding in that respect is fab. However, it is difficult when you want to go out and do things with these children, like take them out, even because sometimes the only intervention you can have for these children is maybe just chatting with them over a cup of coffee, but funding is really, really strict now on how much you can do and how much you can spend on each individual child. So it is a bit of an uphill battle, which we are fighting. I mean, it is hard. I mean, I don't know whether you want to put this in, but I've got a fight at the moment about children having to walk to school from a really socially deprived area, and the government is expecting them to walk 3 miles. And like, we're coming into winter, these are socially deprived areas. These kids can't walk that far, and it's not a safe route. I walked it yesterday. It's really, really unsafe route. So, and that's down to government funding. But perhaps you need to edit that bit because I'm waffling.
No. That's really interesting. That is really interesting. That like you said, that like those are the fights that you're going for. You're going for the, like, they shouldn't be walking 3 miles. They shouldn't. We shouldn't have to. Like, these are kids, and they're, like you said, they're coming from like a low income area. They probably don't have the coats, the boots, what they need, right? So that's really interesting. Wow. And so when you're working with these kids, like, are you, because I was just thinking, I just had a brilliant idea. I know you're not going to like love it, but I'm like, you need to start a rugby program for these kids first of all? Start a rugby
Well,
program.
we do.
Bring
We
them in.
do. We have. So Cardiff City do come out. They've come out. They've done a program in the summer holidays. I can't remember for the life of me what it was called, but they did that with the MPT, which are the community police officers. They did it with them. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. And they do Kyra Kicks. So Cardiff City Football do a football intervention up in Kyra as well. So we do, yeah, there are interventions. And the rugby one was actually proven with MPT because they got six of the young people who came to the rugby intervention. They got them back into college. So it does work. Yeah, totally agree with you, Nick. It is. And sports is such a fantastic way to communicate with the kids, you know, because it breaks down the barriers, you know. If you get them into sports and they feel comfortable with you, then they're going to open up then about their worries and their troubles and what's happening at home. Because it could be something's happening at home and we don't know about it. And then when we know about it, we can go and put social services in. We can go and do stuff, you know, so this kid has a better life. So, yeah, no, I totally agree. Sports is the way forward. Rugby intervention is good.
Well, and I think it gives them that chance to be productive. And, you know, like now they're going to practice, they're going to games, they're, you know, they're with like-minded people, a better team, better people that are going to be, you know, working with them to be like good instead of doing bad things. Right. So yeah, that's awesome. Totally. I love that's there. That's fantastic.
That is it.
Okay. Well, we've covered a lot. And I
think I just waffled a lot.
No, I love the work that you're doing. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I usually wrap up all my podcast episodes with a couple rapid fire questions, just funsy ones. So I'm going to hit you with them. So first one I like to ask, and this is going to be great because you have way different things in Wales than we have here, but what is your favorite food or snack when you are on shift?
I knew you were going to ask that. It's got to be, right, we had the best kebab place in, there's two actually in Swansea, in Ponty. One was Shogun and the other one is in True Forest. I can't remember the name of it, but it has to be a chicken shish kebab. Do you have them in Canada? Chicken shish kebab?
Well, yeah, but they're not called chicken shish kebabs. They're called donairs. But yeah, it'll be like a chicken shawarma.
This isn't a doner or doner or whatever. This is basically chicken breast that's been marinated and it goes on the char grill. So it's not like sort of the kebab meat. It's actual like chicken breast, and then it's in a pita with salad with mint sauce or mint garlic mayonnaise. Garlic mayonnaise,
yeah. That's what we call it. Awesome. That's what we call a donair here.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, like you can get like the donair meat, like the meat that you shave off the stick. I don't like those, but you can get the chicken. Oh, I forgot that they were called Donna kebabs. Donna kebabs.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that.
Oh, Donna kebabs or Tram's breakfast. Remember the Tram's breakfast down Rumbles?
Oh my God, yes.
Or in Uplands. What was the one in Uplands? There was the Greasy Spoon up in Uplands. I can't remember what it was called, the one in Uplands as well.
Oh my God. I like literally last night I was thinking about all the different places. I was like, what's that like the bars that we used to go that were up the hill? And I was like, the Mumbles Mile. Oh my God, how could I forget that? Right?
Cinderella.
Yes.
Oh my God.
What was the bar that we always went to after sports day, like after our games? There was the one bar that we would always go to.
Quids in, when there was Quids in, but then
I feel like it was the one next to Quids.
Oh
my
God.
God. 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Barons, wasn't it? Barons.
I don't know.
What was the one in Fulton House called? The actual student union one.
Oh my God. I cannot remember it. I would just call it the student union bar, but there was a name. There was a name. Yes, there was a name.
Ritzy's was nightclub, wasn't it? Ritzy's was nightclub. Yeah.
Oh, this is like memory lane. So for your listeners, the amazing thing about playing, and I don't know if it's still the same, but if you play sport in university in Wales or in the UK, they don't make you go to school on your sport day. You just get the day off on a Wednesday. You just because clearly you are an elite athlete that needs to be focused on your sport and be ready to go. So we didn't have to go to school on Wednesdays, and it was fucking glorious. But I also laughed because I was like, if you think that at this stage of my life, while I've been drinking all week long, every day, and partying my ass off, that I am an elite athlete, and I'm playing sport and you need to give me the day off school, like, I mean, I'll take it, but like, that's not correct.
Rugby and then go get pissed in the student union, wasn't it? It was awesome.
Yes, it was awesome. It was freaking amazing. I was like,
you
this is
played
like,
away. You used to have cans on the way home, wasn't it?
yes,
Played away. Bloody
yeah,
hell, man. Awesome. Yeah, those were the
yes,
days.
yes. And then remember when we went on tour to Ireland at like Christmas time? Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Which tour did you come on? Because I went to Galway, Dublin, and Cork. You came to Dublin.
Dublin.
Oh, and we did Amsterdam as well. God.
Oh, I would have done that. Dang. Yeah, no, we went to Dublin and that was a time. Oh my God, that was a time. Crazy, crazy. Anyways,
Sorry,
sidetrack. That's okay. I love going down memory lane. That was fantastic. Okay, so next one is, so you've mentioned a couple of locations that we don't necessarily like know of. I'll maybe throw a map of Wales up in the show notes and people see what we're talking about. But having been able to like go through all of those different locations and kind of work in those different areas, what would you say your favorite kind of spot to work is?
Well, my heart will always probably be Pontypridd because that's where I started my policing career and that's where I did most of my service. I mean, like I say, Pontypridd and Talbot Green, we were linked together, so we covered each other's calls. So I would say Pontypridd. Yeah, that's where my heart is in my career. Yeah.
And how big is it? Like, how big is it as a town?
Let's I don't know.
It's big, small,
but I don't know. Average.
I love you. That's a great
It's
like,
not Cardiff. It's not a city, it's a town. So it's not, but the actual area we policed was massive. It was quite big. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In relation to,
No, that makes sense. Okay. And then the last one I'll ask is, if you could give a piece of advice to anybody that's looking to get into a career, be it in Wales, in the UK, or just in general to our listeners, if they're looking to get into a first responder career, what would be a piece of advice that you would give?
Piece of advice. Oh my gosh. I would say just go ahead and do it. I mean, if just do it if your heart's in it as well, because it is hard. It is tough to start with. And you probably go in with thoughts of, oh my gosh, what have I done? Like I did. But stick with it, and you will eventually enjoy it because you'll end up knowing what you're doing, But it is hard, but stick with it. That would be my advice: is just stick with it. Yeah, because it is rewarding. It is rewarding. The good days outweigh the bad days, definitely.
And I totally agree. It's true. Like, it's going to be hard. There's going to be hard days. There's going to be days that you, like you said, go, what am I doing? Why did I do this? Why did I choose this? But it is rewarding and it is awesome. And like you said, for you guys, like police, and not necessarily as much for corrections with us, with, the good stories and dealing with good people, but in a police career, you get the good stories. You get like you said, you get to see these families that you've helped when you're taking away the domestic violence person. Right. So, yeah.
And I think what I would say, sorry, Nick, is another big thing is to ask for help if you need it, because you're going to see some shit. You're going to see some horrendous things, and deal with some horrendous things, So if you don't know what you're doing, ask for help from your supervisor. But if you do need any help mentally, go and seek support and help because you are going to deal with shit and hell. So make sure if you are feeling your mental health is suffering, go and speak to someone, please. That would be my other advice. Yeah.
Love that. That's a great piece of advice because there still is, despite all the work we've done, there is still that stigma of, no, just tough it out. You can, push it down. Totally. But I love that. That's awesome. Well, it has been an absolute treat. I have lush. I've heard all of my fun words again. I have been transported back 25 years to shenanigans at uni. And it's been great. And you've shared some really great information. The thing that I really like is how still parallel it is of a world. You might call it something different. You might, but really it's the same work across the world. We're all striving for the same thing. We're striving for that rehabilitation, that proactive, approach to policing and to helping our communities. And I love that it's the same across the world. That's so cool. So thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for giving up. It's your evening. It's my morning for our time change. I appreciate that.
I know. I can't believe that. No, it's a pleasure. And anytime, an absolute pleasure. Lush to see you.
Love that. All right. Well, you go have an amazing rest of your evening then.
Okay. Cheers, my lovely. You take care.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, listening, giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I completely appreciate it. Make sure you check out our next episode with another badass female first responder anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at bluelinefitnesstesting.com. I hope you stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your six.